Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Jujutsu Kaisen episodes 12 and 13, finishing off the first half of the season. Apparently season 2 is coming next year, but obviously we'll tackle that when we get to it. So, we left off as we are about to head into a fight between Itadori and Junpei. Junpei has gone mad with vengeance and power and everything after his mother was killed by a cursed spirit, which he doesn't realize was caused by the very people he seems to be connecting with, like Mahito. But he is now just completely, like, on the verge of being lost. Like, there might almost be no saving him at this point, so it's very tricky as to how this has got to be handled. And I do know that, again, this is kind of like a mid-season finale with these episodes, so I have been told that after episode 13 is a good point to cut it off, to take a break to avoid burnouts, because I've definitely been on that verge of feeling like I'm going to be reaching burnout soon, to where it's like I've been pre-recording things a lot in advance, and this is actually one reaction I've been putting off like the entire week that I'm recording this on. I'm recording this on a Friday. I've been putting off recording this for literally the whole week. Partially because I know that after this is where I'm taking a break, so I won't have any more Jujutsu Kaisen for a bit. But also because I'm starting to feel that. And it's nothing against the series. I've been enjoying the series just as much as ever. It's just one of those moments where I need to take a break from it. So we are going to do so, and I will talk about in the afterthoughts what will replace it for the time being. We are going to check out basically one other show, and then we'll come right back to Jujutsu Kaisen in the same slot. So, yeah. I'm excited to see how this arc ends, what they do with Junpei and Itadori, and how this is all resolved. Because there has been a lot of setup of Itadori having to face down an evil Jujutsu sorcerer and having to end up killing them. Like, that's been brought up a couple times now, both with Junpei as well as with Kento. So I'm thinking that might be where this is heading, unfortunately. I don't want Junpei to die, and honestly, with the opening, I really wouldn't think he would, but that might be where it's heading. And I think the opening might be more of like like at the end there of the opening, where it shows like them all like sitting together by the tree and everything, and Junpei is sitting with Itadori. I think that's supposed to be like the ideal situation, because it cuts very strongly right after that to Itadori looking up at Sukuna and everything. So I'm thinking maybe that might have been like the ideal world, but things didn't go that way, and that's what that's supposed to represent. That's the only thing I can think of, because otherwise it doesn't, like, yeah, the two got along and kind of made quick friends, but it was so short of a time that it doesn't really make sense to have that in the opening otherwise. I don't know, maybe he'll survive and maybe he will become an ally to Itadori. I don't know. But we'll definitely see. So let's just get this started and see what these final 2 episodes have in store. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episodes. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. You know the best kind of villain, in my opinion? For me, the best kind of villain is a villain who is irredeemably awful, just an absolute piece of shit who you can't help but absolutely despise because of their actions, their ideologies, etc., etc. But at the same time, they're so charismatic and shockingly fun and entertaining to watch that despite that despisement, you can't help but get excited every time they're on screen. They are just kind of the embodiment of both, at the same time, evil and like enjoyability. They're fun, they're exciting, they're entertaining, they're just an absolute joy to watch. But you cannot ignore their vile tendencies. That's the best villain for me. And honestly has been since I first discovered the Joker with Batman the Animated Series. And villains like that, who just are so unquestionably evil and irredeemable and just rotten to the core, yet they're so entertaining, so enjoyable to watch, so just absolutely fun that you can't help but love them just as much as you hate them. And I think that I know that Mahito falls into that category. These episodes here confirm that for me. These episodes with Mahito's ideologies, his actions, killing Junpei and everything, made me absolutely despise him. Like, even with Itadori's views on killing and everything, I wanted to see Yuji violently murder him. That's how much this made me despise him. And Junpei's death was honestly the biggest catalyst for that. Especially after Junpei had kind of realized that he was wrong and had really shown more than ever the propensity to be a good person. He had flipped that back to where he was not irredeemable anymore, to where he could not only be redeemed, but be redeemed in the best possible way. And Mahito just stole that from him, stole that opportunity. And so, like Itadori himself, I was absolutely furious. I was entirely, like, swallowed by my rage at that. I know I'm not the most expressive person, like a lot of other reactors are a lot more expressive than me. So I know I might not have shown it that well, but I was livid. Like, I was gripping both my leg and the couch very tightly because of how angry I was. But at the same time, throughout watching him in the previous episodes and leading up to now and in these episodes, I also couldn't help but enjoy him. I found him very funny, very entertaining. He has great charisma and personality. He's attractive. I know that doesn't really add too much in that regard, but he is. He has this certain level of excitement to him that makes him just an absolute pleasure to watch every episode he's in. And so I'm almost kind of glad he survived in the end, but I'm also pissed at the same time. And it's the most confusing emotion. Because, again, it's like it's two conflicting emotions working together perfectly. But at the same time, again, they are conflicting emotions. To hate someone this aggressively, yet still enjoy their screen time and love getting to see them, is so opposed that it's hard to rationalize it. But again, just like with characters like the Joker, it's the same thing. It's just that wow factor of how well he's written, of how well he's just conceptualized. And in turn, it just makes me even more impressed with the series. With not only just the character himself, but how well they work the character into the story and how well other characters work off of him, whether good or bad. This series continues to actively impress me to like a degree that I did not think when I first went into this would happen. Because I did not expect this series to be as good as it was in the first place. I've grown kind of jaded towards a lot of shonen anime in recent years to where I'm just expecting them to be boring or cliche or just too much of the same thing. And luckily, there's been two shonen that I've checked out recently that have really proven me wrong on that. Both Fire Force and Jujutsu Kaisen now have really proven to be something special. And I'm excited about that. I'm hyped as hell. And I want to make that clear because it's like I adore this series, and every episode pretty much, I love it more and more and more. So when I say like I'm starting to reach that point where I'm feeling burnt out, it's not because of the series itself. It's not because I'm not enjoying the episodes. Completely opposite. It's just because that after a certain point of time and everything, I just start, for a lot of series, start to feel like I just need a break from them. I just need to slow down, take some time off, and come back to it when I'm more refreshed. Especially for shows that go this hard, this often. With shows like that, it's often it's a lot for me to handle, and it might just be the way my brain works. It might just be because of my autism. I don't know. But because of that, because of whatever the reason, sometimes I do just need a break. And it's not indicative of the show, it's indicative of me. And there's always exceptions too. Stuff like the Owl House and One Piece, I can watch all the way through without ever getting tired or burnt out from it. But those are also special cases where it's like the shows are so important and so good, in my opinion, that I need to just keep watching. that taking breaks from them would actually, like, do the opposite of what it would do for any other show, for me. But yeah. So it's very clear how much I love these 2 episodes. But also how much I hated them. Junpei's character and everything throughout this arc was just complete tragedy. He was a character I related to because of the bullying. Something I've gone through throughout a good portion, most of my life, to one degree or another. It even happens currently. Even with just putting up these videos, when I upload the reactions to BitChute, a lot of times there will be people who pop up in the comments on there with a bunch of bullying. Most of the time having to do with transphobia, homophobia, stuff like that. And it's still happening, and it's still going to happen. And while I've learned to handle a lot of those situations better than I used to be able to, it still hurts. And it still gets to me. And I understand what Junpei was going through. And while I haven't been physically abused in a long time, admittedly, I've definitely been physically abused as well. I've been physically bullied in the past plenty of times. So I understand, and so that's what makes his story so tragic to me. Because I've been there, and honestly, I've been just one bad day away from going kind of the route he did. There have been multiple times in my life where I almost snapped. I did actually attack a bully once in my life. I kicked him. And it was because he was bullying specifically a friend. It wasn't even about me. But I went hard. And I don't necessarily regret standing up for my friend or standing up against a bully. But I very easily understand that I could have gone too far. That if I continued to let that consume me, I could have gone too far, and it would have spiraled from there. Luckily, Itadori and Junpei were able to form a good, strong bond so that Yuji was able to get through to Junpei. Even if it forced Junpei into admitting some harsh truths to himself and coming to terms with a lot of really upsetting feelings. And then Mahito comes in and just turns him just like that. It happens so freaking quick, so suddenly, and it's just like, it's like you instantly know, of course, there's no way to fix him. And then he dies like a short time later, and it's just like, Jesus. Like, it's so quick that it almost doesn't give you the time to react to it. Or it doesn't really give you the time to really sort out your feelings. But then, after the fact, it hits like a truck. After it's done and over with, after Junpei's already dead, it's like you kind of start to realize and start to understand like what just happened, and it really does get to you because of how tragic of a character Junpei was, going through the intense bullying that he was constantly going through, and his mother's death being kind of the catalyst to all of it. And the worst part is he never fucking found out that Mahito was behind his mother's death. He never found out that all of this was built on a lie. That everything that he had been doing was based around manipulation. He never got to learn that. He was not able to die with peace. His death was not only just tragic because of the events surrounding it and everything that led up to it, but because he never got to find out the truth, and he died believing that his mother she was unjustly killed, but believing that his mother was killed by someone else, and that while he probably realized what he was doing and everything what he was believing was wrong, he definitely didn't die having come to terms with forgiving himself or getting forgiveness from Itadori or anyone else for that. He died in a very bad place, mentally and emotionally. He was not able to make amends. He was not able to save himself from what he had become. And again, he was not able to learn how his mother really died. So in the end, it was they made this, the original mangaka and everything, and the people who worked on the anime made this as tragic as humanly possible. And if it hadn't been so quick and sudden and everything, I probably would have lost it. I probably would have started bawling. But it was so quick and so sudden that I didn't have time to fully react at that time. And only really came to terms with what even happened after the fact. So, yeah. But these episodes also surprised me in another way, because the entire thing with revealing Kento Nanami's past and all was a massive death flag. And the fact that he was stuck in the domain and everything, it's like, oh yeah, he's definitely going to die. He doesn't die. He survives. He's good. Okay. I don't know if if we were being intentionally led to believe that he was going to die and they pulled the rug out from under us, or if maybe I just assumed things because that's a major death flag. You have to see where I'm coming from here. That is a legitimate major death flag that's used in a lot of different media. Suddenly expositing backstory on a character when they're in a very sticky situation, it's like, yeah, come on. So I can't be the only one who thought he was going to die there. I can't be. His backstory itself sheds a lot of light on him and his personality, and showcases that he's not as cold as he tries to make himself seem, but more that he became jaded with humanity and with the work he was doing, and with just how people tend to be. He put on this guise of being cold because he had already run away. He had run away from being a Jujutsu sorcerer because he was afraid of the feelings that it gave him. But he also realized when he exercised that little curse that was on that convenience store clerk's shoulder, this girl who was just a regular person who was just super nice to him all the time, every time he came in, he realized that her thanks meant something to him. That her thankfulness to him mattered. And when we think he's going to die in the domain and all, he even smiles at that and is like, I got all the thanks I need. And it's like another huge part of the death flag there. And then Itadori's just like, fuck that. Fuck death flags. I'm going to come in and save the day now. Even though, as he even pointed out, it was more Sukuna who did everything after that, but still. It's just kind of... It's just kind of wild. That it went completely the opposite direction that I thought it was going to go there. The actual fights and action stuff were pretty great. Though, honestly, just they weren't the things that really drew me into this. It was definitely the human side of things. Itadori's bloodlust, but also his realization of that, and his acknowledgement that it's probably not a good thing. Just everything with Junpei, Kento Nanami's backstory, and everything human about these episodes is what truly made them for me. And I think that was the intent. I think it was supposed to be like, oh, you're having these cool action scenes, this cool fight, this big climax of the current arc. But the actual, the actual important shit is not the fighting, not the action, not the cool powers, but the humanity in these characters. And everything that they represent and everything that represents them. That's what's important about these episodes. And I love that. I've always loved that. I love it when a show can just dive into what makes these characters human. Even if they're not human. I like that kind of idea of like looking into their souls in a way. So I think that it really handled this all well. Obviously, the animation was great. Obviously, the soundtrack was great. Obviously, the voice acting was great. Some of the dialogue was a little wonky, but it wasn't, like, terrible. I've heard much worse. But there was some wonkiness with it, especially at the beginning of Junpei and Itadori's fight. My only real issue is that these episodes contain juju strolls. Especially episode 12. I think episode 12, at least, should have completely done away with that. At least for the episode. Because the thing is, it completely destroys the emotion and feeling of the episode. Everything about episode 12 was so sad and dark and just really fucked up. And so then you go to this Juju Soul that's kind of goofy and everything afterwards. It's like, it just completely takes you out of the moment. It completely just ruins the overall feeling when you see these three little transfigured human souls playing the sword in the barrel children's toy game thing. It's just like, you're supposed to take any of this episode seriously when that's the last little thing you're left off on for this one? Like, really? And the fact that, and if you were watching this weekly, that makes it even worse. Like, the fact that I could go right into the next episode definitely helped. But if you were watching this weekly, you had to wait an entire week to get follow-up on the important heavy stuff, and the last thing left in your mind is that ridiculous goofiness? Like, yeah, you could try to argue that, oh, the lighthearted, comedic Juju Stroll kind of brings you back out of how heavy that episode was, and it's there to give you a little levity and everything. And it's like, yeah, that's very clearly why it's there. But at the same time, that, again, it destroys the overall mood of the episode, and that mood is important. You should, it sounds mean, but you should be feeling fucking terrible after that episode. You should be very, very depressed and very down, because that's the tone it was going for. That's what it was trying to incite in you. You are supposed to feel like everything is crumbling around you. That way, when the next episode comes in, it's like you're primed, you're prepared for that, and you're ready to see how it concludes this arc. That's how this kind of thing is done. And this is also part of the reason why I dislike binging shows, because you want to be left with that feeling, to stew in that depression for a week, to really just take it in, because then it'll make the payoff to that in the next episode all the more effective. And yes, I admittedly watched through both of these at once. It didn't quite binge them, but I didn't wait a week. So yeah, you could genuinely say I'm being a little hypocritical in that regard. But normally I do tend to wait a week. Normally I do tend to give breaks. I don't tend to binge shows. I don't like to binge shows. The only times I ever do is if it's either a show that I just really can't stop watching for some reason, which is rare that a show has gotten me that invested. Or it's like a game show or something where it really doesn't matter. Like, I've binged plenty of game shows and stuff on Netflix. So it's like those don't matter if you binge them. But when it's like an actual like serialized show like this, binging it takes away from the anticipation that's built up through watching and seeing what happens. That anticipation is key to the overall feeling of the series. So, yeah, maybe it's just me, but I feel like having that Juju stroll there at the end of the episode takes you out of that feeling and really just... The levity is not only not needed, but it's actually actively harmful to what this episode tries to get across. That's why I was struggling with deciding if I even wanted to watch it. I did because content, but I honestly regret having done so. I should have just waited until after I watched both episodes. The Juju stroll happening at the end of episode 13, though, was not only better in terms of tone, which makes it really fucking weird that it happened before, or that it happened at the end of episode 13 instead of the end of episode 12. It was not only more serious and more sad in tone, which fit with the overall tone that was going on with the episodes, but at the same time, it was just, it didn't ruin the feeling of anything. It fit, even in episode 13, it fit better in every way. I don't know how to explain things right now. This is clearly leading us, though, now into the school arc with the Kyoto branch and everything. That's clearly what's coming next. It's been building up to that, and even that tiny little bit I saw of the preview in the second episode, in episode 13 there, like that kind of implies it as well. But yeah, I feel like this was a very good mid-season finale, and while I'm extremely excited to see more, I also understand once again that I am reaching that point where I would burn out soon if I just continued. I need to take a break from this series. As I said in the pre-thoughts, we will be checking out a different show in the meantime, and then coming right back to this in the same slot. So, since this slot is a first impression slot, we will obviously be moving on to a different first impression series. And, like I've said with other stuff recently, I think that you might have seen it already. I don't know. It's weird because when you pre-record things so much ahead of time, it's like certain things are like out of order with what you said. But basically, the deal is with Obi-Wan and the boys, both on Tuesday, with Hilda and Miss Marvel, both on Thursday, with basically doubling up on 2 days. I don't want to bring in another longer show right now. In terms of, episode runtime. So I don't want to bring in something like Watchmen or whatnot, because even though I'm more prepared for the heavy topics and stuff, I just feel that right now we don't have the time. So we need to bring in something that has, a normal or even half-length runtime. And based on just what I want to get to as well, next, I think the next one we are going to check out, or continue checking out, since it is a first impressions slot, will be your boy Kung Ming. So we will be continuing that next week. And yeah, I'm excited to get to more of that. I really enjoyed the first episode, and I've been really hankering to get to more. So we're going to get to that. Don't worry, everything else that we did first impressions for will still be coming. We'll still be getting to Watchmen. We'll still be getting to Show by Rock, Dress Up Darling, Agent Carter, Euphoria, all of that. We'll still be getting to everything. We're just doing things in an order that I choose, basically, but as well as that makes sense for what else is on the channel at the time. Because as I said, if I don't want to bring in another double-length series right now in terms of runtime, because it's just that's just going to be too much on me. Otherwise, we probably would have gone with Watchmen right now. So yeah, we'll do your boy Kong Ming, which is currently airing, but honestly, if I just continue as is, like, it'll be just normal catch-up time anyway, so it's fine. It's not going to be a long series anyway. I believe it's 12 or 13 episodes, something like that. So we will get to that starting next week, and then once we finish that, we'll get right back onto more Jujutsu Kaisen. So tell me in the comments below what you thought of these last 2 episodes of the first half of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1. Tell me your thoughts on how this all ended and everything, and obviously, as always, no spoilers. I don't wish to know anything going forward. So, for now, I'm Connie, and yeah, I'm signing off. See y'all next time.